Hello readers and writers, welcome back to my channel. I'm author Era Reading, and today for you I've got a book haul and a reading update. So during the month of May, I went to the bookstore a couple times, and the bookstore where I go, usually the manga selection is very chaotic and it has sporadic numbers of books in the series, and it can be really frustrating, but they recently revamped their manga section and I got so many manga. This was in 2 trips, by the way, but this is a total of 12 manga. This is a manga haul, so I'm just gonna jump right into it. So first we've got the stack here. I'm super excited about all of these books, so I'm going to kind of explain each of them and where they're going to sit on my TBR. I'm just going to go from the top of the stack down to the bottom book pile over here. So this is Magic Artisan Dahlia Wilts No More, and this is book 4, which just came out this year, and I love this manga. It's so underhyped right now. It doesn't have a whole lot of fans speaking out about it, but it is fantastic. It's one of my favorite manga of all time. It's a fantasy element incorporated world, and she is reborn as an artisan, magic artisan, from her previous life. In her previous life, she worked a boring Tokyo job. She hated her life, and this time she promised that she wouldn't do that, that she would live her life to the fullest and the best she could, and she makes like a whole bunch of gadgets, inventions, and she's really cool, and her romance, it's a kind of a romance and it's really sweet. So if you haven't read it or checked it out, go check this one out. It's so good. I highly recommend it. Next up is A Tale of a Secret Saint. So, sorry, my ring light's kind of shining off of the glossy cover, but this is book 3. So I own book 1 and 2. I enjoyed this series so far. It's an interesting world. It's kind of funny because this girl was reborn from a saint back like hundreds of years ago. She died and was a saint, and she came back and has saint powers and other things, and she's trying to hide them because saints are like hunted and other things like that, mistreated. And she's like a knight, and it's really cool. It's really interesting. We've got a little bit of romance hinted in it, but it's mostly like an adventure one, fantasy, and it's also very interesting. It's a little bit more confusing, but I enjoyed it so far, and I'm excited to read book 3. Alright, we've got 3 books up next. So Those Not So Sweet Boys. I have been looking for the next ones of these forever. I own the first book, and it was so interesting. Again, kind of complicated, and I haven't reread it since, but I am super excited to continue the series. I bought books 2, 4, and 5 because they didn't have 3. Like I said, manga selection isn't the best. But I bought them ahead of time because I'm super excited about it. So this is a romance, and it's a really interesting take on it, and I'm very excited to continue reading it. I'm interested. I think she's probably going to end up with this guy, honestly. We all know it, but anyways, there's lots of these books, and I'm very excited to dive back into this series. Next up, we've got Our Ride, which is book 1 in the series. I've wanted to try this one for a long time. I've seen the anime clips all over the internet. They don't have a dubbed version of it, and so I have a hard time thinking about the idea of watching the subbed version of it because I usually like dubbed better, which is just a preference. They're both good, but I'm very excited. It's a romance. It's very sweet. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing this wrong, but Futaba thought all the boys were loud and obnoxious until she met Ko in junior high, but as soon as she realized she really liked him, he had already moved away because of his family issues. Now in high school, Ko has reappeared, but is still the same boy she fell in love with. I'm really excited. I've seen some really cute clips, and I'm very excited to try this one. I'm not gonna lie, the next 4 books I have been dying to get my hands on forever and didn't know that I wanted one of them. So these 2 books are the next 2 books in Yona of the Dawn. I loved the first book, but my bookstore again didn't carry any of the in-between ones. It only carried 1, which I bought, and then like 27 or something like that. So I got 2 and 3, and I'm so excited. I loved these characters and this world so much. It was such an interesting take, and so basically Yona is a princess, and this is her bodyguard, Hawk, and she is very romantic. And anyways, so the first book was amazing, but now I'm excited to read books 2 and 3. These ones are going to be pretty high up on my TBR, I'm going to be honest. Gonna skip a lot just to read these ones. Okay, so this one, I went into the store and I was looking through and I had already found so many that I wanted, and I saw this one and I went, no way. Your Name. So if you don't know what Your Name is, it's basically a high school girl who lives in the middle of nowhere in a small town, ends up switching bodies with a boy in Tokyo, and they both switch bodies and they're kind of trying to figure it out each other's lives, and it's a romance. So excited. I'm so excited to read this and experience some familiar, exciting things. If you haven't watched Your Name, go check it out. It's fantastic. Highly recommend. Okay, I've watched a good 60 episodes of One Piece, so no spoilers in the comments, but I wanted to read the manga really badly, and my bookstore again never had the first one, and so I wasn't gonna like go online and get it. I'm watching it. It's not like I don't know the story, but I found the first one and I'm so excited and I can't wait to read this one. It looks fantastic. The art is very similar to the anime, which makes me happy, and I'm excited to start down this very long journey of 1,000 episodes and a lot of chapters, and I'm very excited to start this one. So if you like One Piece, let me know in the comments down below. Alright, the last 2 were just kind of grabs because I was kind of deciding and I didn't really see anything that I had previously bought and wanted the next book too. And I also had been keeping my eye on them for a while. So this one is A Sign of Affection. It is about a deaf girl who is on a train and she gets really flustered because this person is asking her for directions, but they're English speaking, and so she can't lip read and they don't sign, and so she's frustrated, but this guy steps in to help her, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited because look how cute they are. The style inside is also very cute, and I love sign language. I know a decent amount. I'm not like fluent, but I know quite a bit of ASL. And so this should be really fun. This is, of course, Japanese sign language, but it'll be fun to kind of see how they play that into the romance. It is a romance, so I'm excited to try this one. This is the last one. I don't know how to pronounce this first name. Shigmoris is my best guess. Is not a cutie. And it looks really interesting. I am super excited about it. So it's basically a high school sweetheart story, and she's kind of got this, like, personality where it sometimes turns on like weirdly cool and reserved and, you know, and awesome and stuff, and so I'm very excited to try this one. So those last 2 were just kind of a, hey, I want to try these ones, so we'll see how this one turns out. So this is my whole manga stack, and as you can tell, I'm very excited about reading all of them, and I'm excited to try some new ones. So now let's get into the reading update. So if you've seen any of my previous videos, vlogs talking about reading, I read in 3 categories, usually 1 classic, 1 manga, and then 1 YA or middle grade, usually fantasy. So I recently have kind of dropped off my classic right now, which is Emma, and that's because I've been stupid busy and I haven't really been reading as intentionally as I've wanted to, other than when I'm on long drives and other things like that. So I'm trying to get back into it. I haven't picked up Emma in a hot minute, but I will talk to you about the 2 books I am almost done. So I got this as a release day present from my parents. I love The Infernal Devices as the original books, and I was super excited to see this in the store as a manga. I didn't splurge on it back then, like back when I saw it, because I did not have that much money to spend on such a fantastic book, but my parents ended up getting it for me as a gift, and I love it so much. So I was reading from, this is how much I have left. This would literally take me probably 25 minutes, and I'll probably do a reading vlog later this afternoon, talking more about that, but I'll basically catch you up to like what my thoughts are on the manga so far. So this story is in the Shadowhunter world. It's about Tessa, who gets kidnapped and introduced to the Shadow world, and it's a whole complicated thing, and there's a bunch of romance and stuff in it, and it's really interesting. I do love the story, and it's interesting to see Cassandra Clare's books translated into manga, because I'm used to reading manga, and I'm used to reading her books, and so it was interesting to see the differences and where the gap didn't quite bridge. So with manga, when you do certain mannerisms that are just in novels, particularly in Cassandra Clare's novels, it doesn't translate quite as well. Some of the characters I feel like didn't translate quite as well as I liked them to from the novel to the manga. Like the main character Tessa wasn't exactly how I would have liked. The thing with doing a main character into a manga is a lot of it is in their head, and so if you can't see it, then it's hard to understand the character. So if you read the series and then read this, it's a little bit easier to understand, I feel like, than just like straight reading this. You might think she's arrogant and rude and a whole bunch of other stuff. Another thing that didn't translate well, this is kind of a spoiler if you haven't read it, so skip like 30 seconds, is Gideon and Sophie's relationship is not in this book. It's like hinted at so much in the book. We even see them go on a date. They basically just say it in here that it happens, and we see like a couple moments of them together, but it makes me so sad to not see it a whole bunch in here. So that was one thing I was kind of disappointed about. The art style is pretty good most of the time, and it's really interesting. I like Will's character a lot translated from book to manga because he seems very like a male main character from a manga, so it fit very, very well. Now onto the novel I'm reading, which is called On the Hawk. This is Maggie Stiefvater's continued series off of the main Raven Boys series, which is one of my top books of all time. I will link the video down below where I talk about my favorite series of as of 2023, I think. So this is the Dreamers trilogy, which is the second addition to the original series. So in this book, one of the main characters is Ronan, who is one of the main characters in the original series as well, and I love him to death. If you go watch my review, you'll hear me rant on him for hours, but this series I can't really explain without spoiling the original series, so I'll just say that it's really interesting, and I'm about that far from being done. Very little, about 110 pages from being done, which is not very far from being done. I'm kind of hesitant to finish this because I don't have the next two books and I've asked for them for my birthday, so I'm trying to like hold off on it. But once I'm done this one, I'm going to continue on to some more books that are still on my list. I have one indie book that I want to read, Scale of Ash and Smoke. I'll put a picture here. It sounds really interesting, but this book reminds me so much of certain things in my book that it's really like it's the closest thing I can read that like is in my genre, which is a big tip when you're writing, is to read what you're writing genre-wise and other. So this is like as close as I get because it's weird in kind of a similar way, but not. Anyways, that's a rant. This book is lovely. I love it so much. My only complaint is Adam's not in it enough. He's in it somewhat, and I understand why. So I'm not super mad. I can see why Maggie did it. I'm just, I miss him, so I might have to do a reread at some point of the main series. Okay, with all that said, I am so grateful that you watched this video. Please give it a like and subscribe. And that was my reading wrap-up and my haul, so I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you very soon with another video. Bye!